Come on in here, storyteller.
Hey, what's going on, man? You on your way to work?
Yeah, I'm going to go up here and grab me something to munch on, then go on in there. Well, you know.
I thought you might be going in a little early. You saw that pizza, man, and you went, oh, my gosh, look at that.
I wasn't hungry till you sent me that.
Well, that bike's really running good, man. I mean, the spring was fantastic.
It's
Is it really? I can't wait to get mine on there, boy. That damn thing beat me to death.
No, that thing's sitting up as high as yours was. And I rode with Scarborough's Corner.
Yeah.
Yesterday for about 150 miles on it, and I never had to put it. I never had to even put it off of zero.
You didn't put no preload under it.
No, I put no preload at all, and it was perfect for me without putting any preload on it. And I did I had to probably prime it probably 4 times.
Right.
And I still can't get it to start loading until it gets to 8.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. You know, I do the flipping it over and pushing the plunger down, putting more hydraulic fluid in it, and doing that. But I could never get it to start raising until it gets to 8. So I just after the 3rd or 4th time, I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm obviously not going to gate it. But from 8 to 25, it definitely works. But hey, that thing is. And it gets noticeably up. I mean, I can feel it when I straddle the bike.
Okay.
You know, I'm higher off the ground on zero. I mean, and I mean by an inch, dude. I mean, it's that much different.
You can tell it that much, an inch.
Dude, listen, I tried over in, I guess off Fish Hatchery Road back through there and some of those curves back through there. We went over to Hot Springs and rode around back down by the river over to Greenville.
Yeah.
And I couldn't scrape a peg.
Well, you ready then? Shit.
Yeah, I couldn't scrape a peg. I tried a couple times just to see if I could get it down low enough to get the peg. I couldn't. I'd get my boot, but I wouldn't get to my peg.
Well,
so that's a good sign.
I'm glad that worked out. Ain't no, you save thousands of dollars on doggone labor. You hear me?
Oh, I know it. So we'll just do the same thing to your F6B.
Yeah, it's needing it bad. I don't know if they give me to run around traction or not, but I may have to just go ahead and get me some of them progressive springs and be through with it, because if they ain't got them, then they ain't going to get them. I mean, we probably just need to do the back one day and then another time do the front, because well, you said you did the front in about an hour and a half, though, didn't you?
Yeah, the front's, now that I know you can do it without taking those out, without taking your actual shock fork leg out, I've got that one down. I can do that one in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay.
And that was not going to be hard. I just have to have everything ready to go. Like I've got one of those Mighty Vacs.
Yeah.
So when you put those shocks all the way down, you have to take front wheel off, and then you put your shocks all the way down. You jack the forks up on it to get the forks all the way compressed. Then you take your stuff out. When you fill it back up, you fill it up. They're supposed to be 5 inches from the top of the fork, so you just fill it up with your fluid. And then you go to shop vac, you measure it down 5 inches, and you stick it down inside the fork, and you suck out anything that's over 5 inches.
Okay.
And that way, that means both sides are perfectly the same height in oil. And then you just drop the springs back down in there, put your sleeves. You got 2 sleeves that go back in there, and you're done. Now, when I looked at the traction site, though, back when I was looking at maybe ordering those, I'm assuming that Progressive, you use the same spacer that's in the bike, the stock one.
Okay.
Do you do that with the traction one too?
Well,
does it come with spacers, or do you use the stock spacers for the traction springs?
I think Strict used the stock spacers, but those spacers that I had in that box, those would come from Traction.
Well, see, for some reason I'm thinking, but the spacer that you had was like a foot long, wasn't it?
A foot long? I don't know if that daggone long, but I think one was longer than the other one, right?
But it seems like it was, and I remember reading in an article somewhere about they supply you with like a 1.5 foot long one, and you cut it to the length that you're supposed to use. Now, Progressive specifically said in their instructions, just use the stock spacers that are in the bike.
Okay. Man, but
I'll look up on let me look up on Traction tonight and see if I can find. You know the compressor tool. Did I tell you the compressor tool bowed out on me?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I got an email back from Dan at Traction, and he sent me the video of where Max was had somebody else who said the same thing, and he then did a video on how you couldn't make that thing do that. And so he compressed it down, and it didn't do it. But then I had actually made a picture and didn't realize I did when it was completely bowed out.
Yeah.
So I sent that to Dan today.
Well, send it to me.
I said, I will. I said, give it to Max. I said, and tell him Charles Gibson could do it in Tennessee. So that means somebody else could too.
Yeah.
And I said I had to crank down on it pretty hard to get it far enough down there to get that clip off. And I did just like it said. I pulled the set screw out. Just everything I was supposed to do. It just didn't want to, I don't know, it didn't want to compress for some reason far enough down before that thing just bowed out like a butterfly. You'll see what I mean by a butterfly. It goes in the shape of a butterfly wing.
Oh, really?
The sides just bowed out on it.
Right.
Yeah, just, and then the spring raised back up. So anyway, I still have the tool. And I didn't get any offer from Dan or anybody when I was on the phone, but I actually physically talked to him on the phone, and I didn't get any offer like, well, you know, we'll replace it with a new one, or we'll do it. They didn't make an offer.
Right.
And but I beat it out with a hammer to bend it back into shape, and then I put a C-clamp on the sides of it so it wouldn't bow back out to get it off. So we can do it. There's no problem.
Right.
We just gotta know when we do it that we have everything there. We don't have to go run to the store or anything to get it. So I just know I'll probably bring the truck or whatever and come down when it comes time to do it. I don't know. I might bring my trailer and pull it down there. I've got plenty of room in the trailer. I'll just bring it.
Well, I tell you what, if they don't send me something by the end of this week, I'm just gonna go with the Progressive, man.
Well, why are they not sending it?
They don't have it. I mean, they waiting on the spring. They don't manufacture the spring.
Okay.
You know, don't nobody make nothing no more. They like Amazon. They sell everybody else shit and get paid off of it.
Right, but man, I just thought I thought all their stuff. I thought they may have made that, but they don't.
Nah, well, that's what he told me. They didn't have the spring. I guess they got everything else to go along with it, but they don't have the spring.
Well, how long has it been since you ordered them?
It's got to be 2 months.
Been a month, Yeah, I was gonna say it's been a month at least.
Yeah, 2 months. But he told me July, mid-July, and here it is almost September. But he did text me about 2 weeks ago, said it'll be next week, and here it is. You know, it ain't next week. Done passed twice.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably give him another shout and just see, and then just cancel. Well, it's up to you. But anyway.
Well, they didn't take no money yet, but. But don't send them after I order my daggone what's called. Then you take my money, you know. So I'm gonna give him an email because you can't never get them on the phone.
Yeah. I will say though, when I texted down there about that thing and left my number, Dan did call me back within just a little short period.
Oh really?
So, oh yeah. It said on there. You know, if you had a problem or whatever, call them, and then it went to a voicemail and said, we don't have anybody who answers the phone anymore.
Right.
Specifically, but just leave a message and we'll call you back. And he did.
Okay.
And the same day.
Okay, yeah, he's called me back before, but like I said, I'm just going back, you know, what he told me there, even though we wasn't ready to do the work right then, but I like you said, like to have the product on my, you know, on me. Once we tear off in it, go ahead and get it done.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know I've got 2 new front ones and 1 in the rear. So my socks aren't a problem. I just know I'm still vibrating a little. And I got out I went into I can't remember which forum I belonged to, but I went into the forum that I did back a long time ago when my my 26 BTC code came on about, or whatever they call that code.
I can barely hear you now, Charles. What you do? Drop your phone?
How about now?
There you go.
Yeah, I went back in and into the forum that I started a while back and added a post to it about my vibration.
Yeah.
I have quite a few responses from it, and then I got a couple of responses last night, and then went back out. It's the weirdest thing. I went back out. You know, do you remember the nickel test that I did on the Valkyrie?
Yeah, yeah.
Where I set the nickel on the valve cover and it'll sit up on its end. Well, I put a nickel on the Goldwing motor last night while it was leaning to the side, and I put it on the right valve cover. Now, which is at an angle, so I still stood the nickel up on it, so the vibration doesn't make a nickel fall off. But it's still vibrating in my mirrors.
Maybe your mirrors are loose.
Huh?
Maybe your mirrors are loose.
No, it's not the mirrors. Remember when well, you know, that was a suggestion way back when I started this post originally on the forum.
Yeah.
You know, check your mirrors. Well, you know, when you're riding down the road at 60 miles an hour and you pull your clutch in and both mirrors just start shaking like crazy, you got something going on. You know, You pull the clutch in, there's no load on the drive.
Right.
Well, I thought it was in the drive. Well, it's obviously not in the drive, or it wouldn't do it when it's sitting still. You know what I'm saying? It's sitting still and vibrating. So there's something somewhere. But what was interesting, I did do that. I did lay that nickel on it last night just to see if it would. I figured it'd vibrate off the motor, you know, and it didn't.
It didn't?
So no, and that even makes it even weirder. Why is it vibrating? What is it on that? So I got into my book last night, and I'm looking back at all the places that the motor is mounted.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back and read, and it's going to take some work because I got to take a bunch of crap off to get to a couple of the mounts. But 4 of the mounts of the 6 major mounts I can get to without taking anything off the bike except a couple of covers.
Okay.
So I'm going to retorque those.
Okay.
But the other 2, the front hanger bolts, I'm not sure I can get to them by taking the exhaust covers off. If I can get to them, then that means I can get to the 6 of the main mounting bolt, and I'm going to retorque and remount the torque on those bolts to see if maybe I have a loose motor mount. And then the only thing from there almost makes me think that maybe the frame's got a crack in it somewhere.
Oh, no.
You know, I mean, that's about all I can get to at this point, because I just knew last night when I put that nickel on there, it's going to fall off. I mean, I just knew it was going to go, look at that vibration. And it didn't. So I was able to stand that nickel up on its end. Of course, it was up against, the end of it was up against the side of the motor, but it still stood straight up and didn't vibrate off. So that's telling me the motors may not be the problem. It may be in the frame somehow. So that's why I'm going to check the mounts. And then I guess I'm going to strip everything off and start checking for cracks in my frame, because, you know, 2002 had some frame cracking problems.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. They had a recall on that years ago, and people brought their bikes in and they stripped them and re-soldered or re-welded some areas that were known to crack on them. It's very possible I've got a cracked frame.
No. So what, would you get it fixed, or you get your new frame?
Heck, I don't have a clue. I would hate to strip everything off that frame down to the frame, put everything back on it. Now, that would be a learning experience.
But if it's a recall, wouldn't the Honda do it?
You know, from that old of a bike, you know, I don't know. And, you know, they can run my serial number and find out if it was serviced for frame cracks.
Right.
I assume they can. That's been a long time ago. So, assuming they still have those records. So, I'm calling Vince. They're closed on Monday. I'll call Vince on Tuesday and seeing if he can run my serial number in the system to see if it ever been serviced for cracks. But that's about, listen, outside of that, I don't know anything else to make any sense out of it. I don't know where it'd be cracked. I have no idea. And if it was somewhere where I could see it and get to it, maybe I could get it. Maybe I could get it welded.
Well, when Honda had that, they had that recall on the brakes on the Lincoln system.
Yeah, I got that done.
Yeah, but even that right there was a recall for all of them. So my buddy, he bought one brand new like last year, 2016, but it was already 4 years old. It was a leftover model.
Right.
And they, before he take it off, they had to do the warranty on the bike because of the recall. So I mean, the recall is a recall.
Yeah, it's very possible that. I mean, I just don't know at this point. But again, I don't know that that's the problem.
Right.
But once I retorque those, I don't know. I mean, I'm done. I mean, there's nothing else for me to do. I just can't. I can't make any sense out of it.
I see that bouncing around on that doggone bump stop and disintegrating. That probably didn't hit that daggum frame if it is cracked.
Well, I just noticed about 3 weeks ago. It became about 3 weeks ago, I guess it was. I started noticing that it was more pronounced. It's been going on for a long time. I mean, it's been going on for 10, 12,000 miles now. But it's always, like I said, been about 70, 75, up in that range. And then, of course, that's when you start making, if you make a comment about that on the forum, everybody thinks you got a tire out of balance, everything about, all this is all this. But the thing vibrates into the mirrors while it's idling. And the thing is, if I lay it over on the center, now because I put the new shock on it, it leans over further to the left. I sent you that picture.
Right.
It's leaning over it's leaning over farther. But when I sit on it and let it sit there and it's vibrating and I can raise the bike up straight up and down, the vibration almost goes away. There's something. When I lean it, it vibrates more than when I don't lean it. And so that's why I said, man, it's something in the motor. So I just leaned it over, and that's when I put that nickel on that opposing cylinder head. Then I got my stethoscope out, my motor stethoscope. I listened to everywhere I could on the motor last night. Couldn't hear anything weird. Couldn't hear any ticking or knocking in the motor. Couldn't pick up on anything that anything that might indicate that here's a sound that shouldn't be there. So I looked over that last night.
Yeah.
So I'm really at wit's end. I mean, if there's something off in the motor, you'd think the motor would have been vibrating enough to make that nickel fall over. I mean, it wasn't moving. And I revved it up to probably 4,000 RPMs and back 2 or 3 times, and nickel never fell over.
Really? Well, you seem like it was something that daggone motor. It would send off a code and send you some kind of a light or something, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I still got the red light. I still have that red light on from my left knock sensor. And this whole time, whatever this is that's making this do this could be why that knock sensor stayed on. And one of the things that Goldman Greg had recommended on the way during that forum was to, go through and check all your electrical connections. And one of the connections he wanted you to check was, he's right. There's only 3 things in it. There's your ECM, there's the wiring that goes to your grounds, and there's the volts, and there's the knock sensor. So if the code's coming on, something in that group has to be what's going on. Well, the ECM's the one I replaced, and Fred whatever his name on the email on the Goldwing site actually sent me a known good ECM. I put it in my bike. It's still through the code. I just packaged it back up and sent it back to him. So at that point, once we knew that it wasn't the ECM throwing the code.
Right.
And so then I put a new knock sensor in, and then I put the knock sensor on the right side that I knew worked. On the left side, it didn't work. It still threw the code. Uh, then what was the next thing? And then this time, while I had the tank out, I actually took that. There's a main ground underneath the tank. That's the only way you can get to it is take the tank out. Well, while I had it out this time, I loosened it up, cleaned all of it, and re-grounded it underneath the tank.
Yeah.
Fresh, just in case that was the problem. Of course, it was. I could code through immediately, just like it all. But I've been riding the thing for 20,000 miles with the code on.
With the code on.
Because I can't get it off.
Right.
And it comes on about 2 minutes after you start the bike every time. So I mean, other than just throwing parts at it, there's hardly any way I can't get the code light off. But it runs fine. I mean, it doesn't. If it's retarding timing, I don't know it, don't feel it. It's doing fine. It's got new spark plug wires on it too. I put all new 6 spark plug wires on it back when I was having that problem, and I didn't need those. It's kind of like the hydraulic line that I took off. You know, all my spark plug wires were cracking and stuff. And one of them was throwing a spark across, hitting the wall of the inside of the bike.
Woo.
And that's why my bike wasn't running that great. And
right.
Every once in a while, it kind of kick on me every once in a while. And that's what that was. It cleaned that right up. And then I thought, well, not damage the coils. But for this vibration, I'm trying to think that might be the problem. I may have a cracked frame.
Woo.
But, again, you'd have to take every single thing off the bike, basically, except the motor, to get to where you could see all parts of the frame.
Right.
So tonight, again, later this afternoon, I'm gonna hop in there when it cools down a little bit. I'm gonna hop in there and I'm gonna take those side covers off, and I'm gonna retorque the 4 bolts I know I can get to.
Right.
And then I'm gonna try to see if I can get to the other 2, one on each side, and retorque those 2, and then just sit out and see if that makes a difference. It'd be great to retorque them all and then sit on the bike and it'd be smooth, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it? Is it 6 bolts?
Yeah. Well, there's more than that. There's 6 main bolts.
Okay.
Then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 more that are on the subframe that go underneath all of that. I'm not going to get into the subframe, but because those are just tightened down. But these others are the inside bolt is adjusted and screwed against the motor with only 35 inch-pounds of pressure.
Right.
And then the outside ones are anywhere from 29 to 47 foot-pounds of torque on those. But they have to be done in a certain order when putting the bike back. It tells you which bolt. You got a front mount bolt, a rear mount bolt, and a center hanger bolt. And all of them have to be done in a specific order according to the manual. It's really confusing, but that's the way it says it has to be done. That's the way I did it. So.
Now, is it a bolt that's a stud, or you got to put something on the back end of it?
It's a bolt that goes through a nut on the outside, and it goes into an adjustment nut that like there's a hole drilled through your frame, and on the inside there's a nut that goes in there. It's called an adjustment nut, and you have to adjust it to where it touches the frame, and then you torque it to like 13 foot-pounds pressure and leave it. After you do it 35 inch-pounds first, and then the outside bolt you put on to lock it. Then you put your main bolt through the other side, through it, and it's got one of those castle nuts on the top where you have to have the special tool, which I have all that because I ordered all that back when I pulled the motor.
Right.
And then you use a castle tool, so you're holding one part of the nut, and you've got a torque nut or torque. What's it called? You have a Allen wrench that goes through the middle of your torque tool, so you're holding the castle nut as you're torquing that on the inside. So it's real specific. It's real specific how it's done.
Right.
But that's what I did when I put it back together. But obviously, and you got to remember too, when my sensor light came on, I know I'm flipping back between vibration and sensor, but when the sensor light came on after I put the motor back in, I drove the bike for almost 3,500 miles before that light ever came on. And I remember I was at the marathon station getting ready to do the Cherahela Skyway. It just filled my tank up with gas and turned up to go up to Cherahela there out of Robbinsville. And that's when that light came on, and it intermittently came on for about 2 or 3 days, and then it finally came on and stayed. And it's been on ever since, and that's been 2 years ago.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, and I tried everything. I went through the forums and all that and all this and what could it be and what could it be, and it never went off. I've changed things, switched things. It's crazy. But anyway, it doesn't affect the running of the bike, so I still run it.
Right.
But, that maybe it was picking up something that's part of this vibration is one thing I always thought. And I thought, hell no. But anyway, hopefully I'll get some more tips online. And I wish I had access to the Gold Wing Greg guy who has just Gold Wings down in Florida. And I'd just take the bike to him, let him pull the motor, and he probably could figure it out. But he's the one that threw in some stuff for me too, and then everybody's always about this tires and everything. I'm trying to tell people, it vibrates when it's sitting still. It's not rolling.
It's rolling.
Not in the drive. It's not in the tires. It's not in the drivetrain, but it's in something. And I'm starting to lean toward a cracked frame. I really am. Somewhere.
If I was going to take it down there to let Gold Wing Greg or whoever it is, ain't no telling what that's going to cost. You might as well go buy that bike.
Well, that's another point. So, yeah.
You had $5, $6, $7 grand. I mean, they was talking about $5 grand just to change that thing you did to your alternator.
The alternator drive gear at Clinton Highway Honda was $4,500 plus parts, and I did it for $600.
See what I'm saying? So ain't no telling what they're gonna do.
Well, I even thought about if I knew it was the motor now for sure, then I'd take the motor out and take the motor to him. So I saved that labor.
Right.
We could just fix the motor, but I just don't know that that's it.
Yeah.
Now that this thing's starting to vibrate. Listen, that nickel test last night was the killer for me. Because I said, I'm going to set this nickel on here and it's just going to vibrate off the motor. Sat right there like nothing.
You know it was going to throw it off.
Oh, I knew. I said, yeah. I didn't even think about that. Because, see, I did the nickel test on my Valkyrie and I videoed it. Showing the nickel. And that nickel's sitting by itself on the valve cover, standing there, and I rev it up. And it doesn't fall over. It's not even touching anything except sitting straight up on the valve cover, dude.
Oh man.
That's how smooth those things are. So I thought, let me go do the nickel test on this because it's gonna throw that thing right off. And then when it didn't, I went, oh my gosh.
How many miles on the Valkyrie?
61-ish.
Okay.
So I mean, but my point is that the motors are that smooth.
Yeah.
So anything if the motor's still that smooth on the Gold Wing, if I stick the nickel on there, then why is it shaking? Unless there's a frame problem and it's not tight as it's supposed to be, and it's getting a little bit of something through the frame system. It's the only thing I can figure.
Right.
And then I thought, well, maybe I wonder if my timing's off. But my timing, you don't adjust timing; they're automatic timed through the ECM, so it's got timing, but it's automatically done. But if the timing was off, the bike will be running like crap.
Right.
And it's not. It's running great. It's just vibrating. So, all right. But anyway, that's where I'm at.
Well, daggone. Well, send me some pictures of what you was talking about that
I will send you a picture of that butterfly traction.
Yeah, send me that. Yeah. I'll put that in the video.
All right, man.
All right, bro.
All right, talk to you. Have to be careful out there.
All right. That was Charles Gibson, you guys. Let's go on Subway and get us some lunch for the night.
On three, slap the adventure. 1, 2, 3. Slap the adventure.